So we'll get started in about a minute. I'll share a little bit about who I am and why I chose to do this, and just hope that I'm a blessing to a few people out there. I know that parenting is not always an easy thing, and I have a passion for encouraging fathers to be the best fathers they can be. And I'll explain why in a few, and I'll introduce myself. You're probably watching me and saying, who is this guy on this live stream? I don't even know who he is. Why is he doing this? Honestly, I don't even care. But soon you'll get the whole thing. New York, baby. There's some ginger tea in here. My cousin Dwight and his wife Sumi put me onto some ginger tea. Just put a little bit of honey in it. It's the best tasting thing in the world. Well, next to water. Water's my favorite drink, all right? Yeah. So let's get started. I'll tell you a little bit about myself, who I am, and why I chose to do this particular webinar. My name is Andre D. Harrison. I am first and foremost a child of God. Second, I am, and this comes very close, right after God, I am a father of 3 amazing, beautiful boys. Yes, I have 3 sons. One is 16. I know I may not look like it, but I have a 16-year-old. I have a 12-year-old, turned 12 2 weeks ago, and I have a 6-year-old. So I have 3 children in each stage of education, except for college. I have a high schooler, a middle schooler, and a child in elementary school. Yeah, it's a little bit challenging, but I tell you what, it's one of the most rewarding things in the world to have an opportunity to be a full-time dad. And not just a full-time dad, but to be a single father is a blessing. It really is a blessing. I am a single father, and I take that role very seriously, very seriously. Hey Janelle, thank you so much for watching. All right. Oh, he says you're not able to watch. I'm hoping that. Oh man, she's not able to watch. I wonder why. I'm just gonna see if I can text. I'm gonna try to refresh it. Maybe she can see it if she refreshes. And if anybody else had that problem, please let me know if you're having the same problem. I really want people to have a chance to watch it. All right. So I take my role as father very seriously. When me and my ex-wife split up, I had the kids with me, and today we trying our hardest to co-parent. It's not always easy when you're co-parenting and one parent lives in another place, the other parent lives in another, and there's children involved. At this present moment, I have my 2 younger ones, my 12-year-old and my 6-year-old, and she has my oldest, my 16-year-old. And we're doing our best to co-parent all of our children together. I'm thankful for my children's mother. I wouldn't ask for another mother for them, but I know the challenges. And for 5 years, it was just me and my boys, me and all 3 of my boys. So you are maybe a single mother out here, and you're probably listening to me and asking yourself, how is this man going to tell me, what I need to hear about being a single mother and how to raise my son as a single mother? Well, I'm also a single father, so I can relate to a lot of the challenges that you face. I can relate to having 2 jobs and missing a bill to put some food on the table, or having to put your pride aside and ask mom, dad, grandma, auntie, uncle, whoever, can I have a few dollars? I'm short on a bill. I can relate to that. I can relate to the hardships that single parents face. But one thing about being a single parent is that it's extremely rewarding. The lesson that you're instilling in your children are going to last. They're going to see the sacrifices you made, and they'll appreciate it. But that's if you're truly sacrificing. They'll see it, and they'll appreciate every single sacrifice that you make. They really will. And don't take your role as parent lightly. Very important. I think under God on this earth, that's the greatest calling that a man and a woman can have, and that's to have the calling to be a mom, the calling to be a dad. So it's something that we should really take seriously. I try my hardest to do the best I can for my kids, and I'm not perfect. So I'm not coming to you with this webinar telling you that Dre is perfect. He's got all the answers, because I don't have all the answers. I really don't. I'm a man who is seeking to know a little bit more about manhood. And while I'm doing that, I'm teaching my sons the same thing. And I'm an author of From a Fatherless Father to His Sons. It's a book that I wrote about the lessons that I learned growing up without a father that I teach to my sons and the young men that I mentor. I am a product of a single mother household. Thankfully, my grandmother was there, very involved in me and my sister's life and my brother's life, but my father wasn't around. My father wasn't there, so my mother was forced to raise us on her own. And, she's a single mom, so there's no true guide to raising a son. There's no, clear-cut way, a perfect way that you can, apply raising a son, especially if you don't have the child's father around. So a lot of mistakes I made growing up. And I wrote this book because I didn't want young people, young males growing up in single parent homes, single mothers homes, to make the same mistakes that I made. I wish that I had that guidance from a man to sit me down consistently, to sit me down and say, Dre, you really need to try this, you really need to try that. And I didn't have that. So I grew up learning a lot of the lessons that I learned by trial and error. A lot of stupid mistakes. So I wrote this book for 3 reasons: to encourage young men growing up without their father, to give single mothers a guide to relate to their young sons and to help teach them a lesson that they need to learn, that men should learn growing up, and to absentee fathers in hopes that they would truly take their role as a father seriously and take their rightful place in the child's life as dad. So that's why I wrote the book, and I have people texting me now and and telling me things, and they're watching. Wow, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. So I know what it means to grow up in a single mother home, and I also know what it means to be a single father. I do. So I can relate to both ends. So I wanted to do this to encourage single mothers out there who are forced to raise their sons without a father figure. And it's extremely important that young men look up to another man, but sometimes that's not the case. Reality is certain homes lack that paternal presence. It does. So what does a mom do then? A lot of moms out there pulling their hair out because they don't know what to do with their young sons. And that's why I put this webinar together, to help you and encourage you and answer any question that you may have about parenting and mothering a young boy to become a man without the presence of their dad. So all you have to do is type in your questions. I'll read the questions and comments, and I'll answer whatever questions that you may have. If you have any questions about me, the book, it's real simple. I'll answer any questions that you have. The book is available on Amazon.com. It's called From a Fatherless Father to His Sons. You can search it that way. You can search it by my name. You can also go to my website, The Roll Call. That's TheRollCall.org, therollcall.org, and purchase the book there. All the books purchased through therollcall.org, my website, will be signed and autographed by me. Those that are done through Amazon will not be autographed by me, but it's just as good because everything in there is the same. It's a very easy read, and I tell you, a lot of great reviews, and a lot of mothers have told me that this book really helped them. And that's my goal. My goal is to help young men that are growing up without fathers to become better men, to become better fathers. We have a goal that we're trying to reach. We're trying to eradicate fatherlessness. If we can't do it by way of inviting absentee fathers back into the children's life, they don't want to be involved. If we can't do it by way of encouraging men to become mentors and father figures to young men, we're going to do it by training these young men now when they're in high school, when they're in junior high school, to be responsible men, so that when they grow up and they have a child, they're not repeating the same cycle. We're hoping that in 25 years, fatherlessness will be a thing of the past, because we're trying to raise young men up to be responsible men in the communities, in their homes, to men that would appreciate their wives, love, and model for their children. That's what we're trying to do. All right, so parents, if you, moms, dads, whoever, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask it. I will answer whatever questions you have to the best of my abilities. Like I said, I don't have all the answers. I'm not Mr. Know-It-All. I'm a man in search for maturity. I'm looking to improve in every aspect of my life. So if you have any questions, please feel free. And I had a couple of people already send me some questions. And one of the questions was, how does a woman teach a boy to become a man? And I think that's a very good question, because the majority of single parent homes are single parents by the mother. And a lot of moms are faced with this extreme challenge on raising a boy to become a man. First, I don't think it's fair. I think it's unfair for a woman to have, or a mother to have, that burden on them, to have to raise a boy to become a man. It really isn't fair, but that's reality in a lot of homes. That's the reality in the home. So the question, how can a woman teach a boy to become a man? Honestly, it's very hard. Very hard. I'm not going to say that it's impossible. It's not the woman's role to teach a boy to become a man, because, and this is what I've experienced, when a woman attempts to try to teach a boy to become a man, a woman tends to teach the boy what she feels a man is, right? So a lot of those lessons could be even unrealistic to teach a man those kind of lessons, because a lot of women would teach their sons how to become a man based on the past hurts of the mom. So the mom would say, I went through this with this man, so I'm going to train my son not to be this way, instead of just allowing him to discover what manhood is, and leading him on the right path, and teaching him, listen, a man should walk this way, a man should do this, not because of how you've been made to feel in the past by another man, but simply because he needs to explore what it means to be a man. I believe a woman could teach a boy to become a man. I don't believe that they can do it better than another man. But there's a section in my book. It's called to know the part, to look the part and be the part, and it talks about manhood. This is my personal belief. I don't believe that a man could successfully reach that level of manhood. I believe that they reach an age where they become a man, but that term manhood is a term that's connected with continual growth. Just because you reach a certain age, you can't say that I'm a man, And I think a lot of moms put that kind of pressure on boys when they reach 12. You're man enough to go and take out the garbage. You're man enough to do this. You're man enough to do that. When they're 16, you're man enough to go to the store and do this and do that. When they're 18, you're man enough to do this. That could really hurt a young man who is trying to discover what a man is. Don't teach him how a man is good enough to be a man. Teach him the characteristics of what would make a good man: honesty, integrity, a genuine heart, love, a peacemaker. I lived in a time when men had to puff up their chest and prove that they were a man. And even it's like that today too. You have to prove that you're a man. I think it's unfair to put that kind of expectation on a teenage boy, because he's going to think that violence and being stronger than the next man is part of being a man, and it's not. Being a man has to do with maturity, and just because you reach a certain age doesn't mean that you've reached maturity. Age is not a barometer for maturity. It really isn't. So let's not teach our sons that they've reached a certain age so they need to act like a man. How are they going to act like a man if they've never been taught how to be a man? Moms, don't put so much pressure in trying to make them fulfill the role of a man. Guide them in the right path. And I always recommend this. If you know a positive male role model, if he has an uncle, an older cousin, a stepfather, a grandfather, a man in the community who's respected and trustworthy, connect your son with them, and go to that man, uncle, cousin, whoever, and ask, would you mentor my son? He needs to know what it means to be a man. He needs to learn what a man is. I had my uncle in my life, my older cousins in my life, and they were there, but they weren't there consistently. They couldn't be there consistently. They had their own families, their own jobs, and they had to deal with their own responsibility. But I had choices to make. Where I grew up, it was a rough neighborhood. I saw men selling drugs, treating women bad, women walking past the street and then whistling and kissing. And then on the flip side, I had men in my family who, were positive men. They, respected women, and some did not, but some did. So I was able to choose how I wanted to act, or what a real man acted like. Moms, don't put so much pressure in having your son act like a man. Start teaching them how to be a man and point them in the right direction to a positive mentor that will mentor him and show him how to be a man as well. Like I said, I commend all the moms out there that are doing an amazing job trying to raise their sons to become men. You're doing the best that you can. And there are a lot of amazing men that are doing wonderfully, that were raised by a single mom. For example, our President Barack Obama. You can say whatever you want about the man. You can disagree with his political agenda. That's fine and well. I don't agree with the man on everything either. I don't disagree with him on everything. I just don't agree with him on everything. But there's one thing that everyone could agree on, is that he grew up in a single parent home with his mom, only his mom. And he went from there and rose to become president of the United States. So anything is possible, Mom. Like, you could potentially have the next president of the United States living in your home. So make sure that you guys instill positive values, and don't put what you feel a man is on him. All right, help him discover what a man is by seeing other men, and you can even speak to other men and ask for advice. And pick up my book. Hey, a shameless plug, but pick up my book, From a Fatherless Father to His Sons, and that would definitely help you. Definitely help you. All right. If you guys have any other questions, please feel free to ask. Another question somebody asked me was, how close should my boyfriend be to my son? Interesting question. How close should my boyfriend be to my son? I guess this question is twofold, because there's two people that you have to protect here. That's first and foremost your son. Second, your boyfriend. He's your boyfriend, not your husband, not the child's stepfather, not the child's father. You cannot put the expectation on him, your boyfriend, to be this child's father. Can't do it. It's not fair, especially if he's not ready to take on that responsibility. Second, it's not fair to your son, because your son may become attached to this man and it don't work out. Then what? Homeboy's going to head for the hills, and your son is left without a man in his life again, and it's going to create more disappointment. It's going to create distrust in your son's heart for men. So you want to protect your son. I always say don't expose your children to a boyfriend so soon, because you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what's going to happen. If there's a boy growing up in a home without a father, when a man comes in, he becomes attached. He wants that. He wants that attention. He wants that positive male role model. And if that role model isn't consistent, if he steps away because he's upset with you, the son's probably gonna blame you. Second, he's not gonna trust men in the future. Sorry, I just hit the laptop. He's not gonna trust men in the future. Don't put your sons through that. Wait it out for a little bit, and don't expose your son right away to the boyfriend. And next, don't put that pressure on your boyfriend unless you know for sure that he's going to be your husband and he's going to commit to being a child's stepfather. Give me 1 second. It seems like some people are having trouble listening and watching. I'm going to tell them to try to refresh the page. Yeah. I'm sending a notice saying that I hope that they can hear it. Yeah. All right. Hope that you guys can see it. All right. So make sure you guys protect your son first and foremost. But if you know that your boyfriend is going to be there in your life for the long haul, Um, definitely try to connect him, especially if he's a positive role model. Like if he's not, if he's out there selling drugs and doing stupidness in the street, don't connect your son with him. In fact, get out of that relationship. Get out of that relationship. It's not going to work. It's not good for you. It puts you in harm's way. It puts your children in harm's way. So make sure that you stay away from that kind of situation, please, for the sake of your safety and for the sake of your son, who needs a positive male role model. Some women, out of desperation, would just get involved with any old man just so that they can say they have a man in the home. Sometimes, sometimes it's best that there isn't a man, because you would rather your son not learn bad habits from a negative male role model. So be wise in who you choose as a mate. Be wise who you connect your sons with, because the lessons that he learned, he's going to learn by watching your boyfriend. He's going to learn by seeing how your boyfriend interacts with you. And if he doesn't interact with you in a positive way, more than likely, he's going to mimic that same behavior in the future with his future relationships. So my suggestion is that you take your time in exposing your son to your boyfriend and your boyfriend to your son, and monitor how close they will be, because I know that there's a lot of pressure on mom to try to raise their sons, and some moms really need that extra support from a man. But you need to protect your sons first and foremost, and make sure that whoever comes into his life, and into your life for that matter, will be consistent, will continue to be there no matter what, will be committed and faithful to you and his family. Okay? Your son needs to see that first and foremost. If you can bring a man into your life who's committed, who's faithful to his family, who loves you, if he sees that, that's a good thing for him to see, and he's going to mimic that when he grows up. You want that in your life, but make sure you choose wisely. A man that would love, care, provide for, and be the spiritual leader in his home. Your sons need to see that. All right, we have another question. My husband is never home, and my son is acting out, except when his father is around. What do I do? Let me take a sip for this. Giants, baby. I'm a New York fan for everything. New York Knicks, then the Nets. New York Giants, then the Jets. New York Yankees, then the Mets. Hey, it goes in that order. But back to the question at hand. My husband is never home, and my son is acting out except when his father is not around. What do I do? I think there's a couple ways to define absent fatherless homes, or absentee fathers. You have those absentee fathers who are not in the child's life at all. And then you have those absentee fathers that live in the home but are still absent from their child's life. Here's how it goes. Women, maybe you can relate. You work a 9 to 5, mom. After work, you go and pick up your child from the daycare or the babysitter. You go home and you get dinner ready. You wash yesterday's dishes if it wasn't washed last night. You prepare dinner. You do homework with your kids. You check it. You look through all the class notes. And then here comes your husband, who also worked a 9 to 5, who says, honey, I'm tired. He plops his feet on the couch, plops his feet, butt on the couch, feet on the whatever it is, the centerpiece, grabs a remote, starts watching TV, tells you, man, I had a long, hard day. Doesn't interact with the kids, doesn't interact with you much. And here it is, you're doing all this work and pouring into your kids, and dad is just doing absolutely nothing. That type of dad I consider an absentee father as well. If he's not going to invest in the life of his family and his children, he's still absent. If he's working around the clock and not seeing his kids, he's an absentee father. He may be a good provider, all right, but he's still an absentee father. Still an absentee father. And there's a lot of moms in the situation that I described. First, I think, and I'm gonna be perfectly honest with you, I was that same way. I really was. In certain parts of my marriage, I felt like my ex-wife was home all day. I was working at the church all day, and I come home and I just want to relax. I want my mind to rest. I would cuddle up with my kids and interact with my children, but I didn't want to do nothing. I didn't want to help, and I had to get out of that. I had to leave that mentality that I work the 9 to 5. I'm the breadwinner, and when I come home, I want to relax. Your children, your sons need to see dad interact with you as you're his equal in the home. That you guys share chores, that you guys share cooking, do the homework with your kids. And what do you do about your son who's acting out? You stay consistent with your son, and use words like, I'm not happy when you act this way, or it hurts me when you act this way. And some parents may disagree. We're trying to raise men here, so men have to learn how to get connected to their feelings. There's one word that really, when somebody's hurt you, there's one word that you can say, right, to this person that would really get to them, all right, and it won't make them angry, it won't make them upset, it'll really make them think about what they did, and it's the D word. It's called disappointment. All right, sometimes your sons need to learn about how disappointed you are in them, not angry, because here's the thing: a young boy who is confronted with their mother who's angry with them is only going to try to return that anger. So if you come at him, mom, with, you're going to do what I say, you're going to listen to me, and I'm the mom, you're going to respect me, he's going to be like, for what? You're not bigger than me. You're not, especially in their teenage years. When teenage boys want to puff up their chest and beat their chest and act like they're men. No. Your sons really don't want to disrespect you, but if they feel like overpowered, they're going to try to stand up. All right. The Bible says that a soft answer turns away wrath, but harsh words stirs up anger. Sometimes you have to use certain words that would de-escalate the situation, but let them know how you feel, or how whatever they did made you feel. For instance, you came home after curfew at half an hour late. Yeah, so? What do you mean so? I'm your mom, and you're going to listen to me and follow this curfew. I don't have to do anything. But let's change the scenario a little bit. Son, you came in after curfew a half an hour late. So? Son, that really is disappointing. I work hard for you, and I'll sacrifice everything for you. And it's disappointing to know that you would not love and respect me enough to follow that simple rule. The moms and sons have a very special connection. They really do. And it's rare that you'll find a son who just want to outright disrespect their mom. They really don't. But if the son, a 16-year-old boy, on average, if they feel like they're being tested, they're going to try to, react the same way. But if mom could handle the situation a little bit differently, especially with their sons, because there is that special connection and they really don't want to disrespect mom, using words like, I'm hurt, what you did was very disappointing to me, could make the situation a little better, and they can understand how you feel. Sometimes you want to take the pot and throw it at your husband and saying, why is he acting this way to me? Talk to your husband, sit him down, let him know what you need from him, how your son may be disrespectful at times, and let your father softly speak to your son and say, listen, this is your mother. You cannot disrespect her like that. The son needs to see that mom and dad are a team. Even if you're living in a home without a husband and without a man, you and that child's father still have to operate as a team and co-parent, so that those kids know that they can't get over on you guys. It's in the nature of teenagers to want to try to get over if they can. Honestly, I grew up without my father, and my grandmother was there with my mother as we grew up, and sometimes I would try to split them. Well, grandma said I can do this. Well, mommy said I can do this, all right? There's a question. I have a question. Natalie, what's going on? What's your question? All right. While she gets that question going, remember, moms, try to, handle the situation as best you can. There's ways. There's one thing that I'm gonna say, ladies. You're probably gonna get upset with me for saying this, but ladies have this real natural gift to manipulate situations. You do. You just gotta now. You gotta use that same gift of manipulation to coerce your son to feel what you're saying without having to try to overpower them. All right. Here it is. Thank you, Janelle. Thank you so much. The question is, how do you deal with a father who isn't a good role model to your son? How do you feel? How do you deal with a father who isn't a good role model to his sons? Again, your primary concern, Natalie, is to protect your son. Legally, you cannot keep the child's father away from your son. Your child's father has legal rights to be in the child's life and to have visitation. But you also have to protect your son. Natalie also writes, my son's father is in his life, but because of all the things we've been through, he hates me and my son, sees it, and doesn't understand it. That's one of the hardest things when two parents don't get along. The kids see it, because it really does hurt the kids. So I think that I was going in a different direction with that question. You're saying that he isn't a good role model, and I guess he's not a good role model because of the way he treats you. He has to see how women should be treated. He really does, because the chances are, when he grows up, he's going to do exactly what his father did to you, to other women. He's going to treat them the same way. And she writes also, it's very hard. I know it's hard. What you have to do is you have to keep communicating with your son. All right? Because this can go one of two ways. He can see how he treats you and how it makes you feel and treat other women that way. Or he can see how he treats you and commit to never treat a woman like that again. What would guarantee the second part is if you always keep constant communication with him about what's happening, letting him know that regardless if you don't get along, that you will always be his mom and he will always be his dad, and that you guys are going to try your hardest to work together. Another thing is, try not to plan things without the father. Let him see that you guys are trying to work out a decent relationship with one another, a co-parenting relationship with one another. And even if the dad doesn't get along with you at first, if he wants to be in a child's life, that's a positive thing. But I suggest trying to open up means of communication between you two while your son is there. That would be positive. So like special events, school events, things like that, so that he can start seeing you guys interacting in a positive way. And you invite him and he denies it. Well, then we can't force him to want to be involved more than he wants to be involved. If there's another man that would be a positive male role model to him, my suggestion is that you try to have him spend more time with him. I'm not sure of your relationship status. I'm not sure if there's a special guy in your life. And Natalie, if there is and you didn't tell me, we're going to have problems. But if there is a special guy in your life and he respects you, your son needs to see that. He needs to see that. And it's hard because you have his biological father who your son is going to love. And then you may have a potential stepfather who your son prayerfully will love also. And now he's got the two conflicting aspects. My suggestion is also so that you keep him in prayer. And keep him surrounded by positive men that would really teach him the right way. And would sit down with him and say, listen, this is your father. I know you love him, but the way he's treating your mom is not right. Point blank. She says, no, she's single and there's no special guy but Jesus. All right, but when there is, you make sure you let me know. All right, you let me know. All right, so I'm not sure if I was able to answer that question, Natalie, but bottom line, if he doesn't want to be involved that way, what you could do is, when it comes to your interaction with him, keep it very short, keep it very sweet. If need be, keep it, send text messages for a paper trail. But you got to protect him. So sometimes you don't want to keep him away from your son, but you also got to protect how your son views your relationship with him. So, so my suggestion is that if you guys, like when you guys exchange your son and there's always negative interaction, find another way for his father to pick him up. This way your son isn't exposed to that kind of behavior anymore. Yeah. All right. And it's so good to hear from you, Natalie. It really is. Miss you. Miss all my Rochester family. I really do. All right. I have another question. All right. And again, if you guys have any questions, please put it in the chat and I'll answer the questions to the best of my ability. Another question somebody sent me was this. When is the appropriate age to talk to my son about sex? All right. When is the... Let me take a sip. This is my nice ginger tea in my New York Giants cup. When is the appropriate age to talk to your child, your son, about sex? Man, before I get into that, I think Natalie had something else. What you said earlier about women raising men according to what a man did to them is what his mother did with his father. So it's a curse that has to be broken. It stops at my son. Absolutely, Natalie, you stop it there and you do the best you can to raise your son to be the man that he can be and not what the man that you want him to be necessarily. So you go ahead, girl. You go ahead. All right, so an appropriate age to talk to your sons about sex. Chances are, at a young age, your son has already been exposed to the topic of sex. Public schools today start talking about that S word up, as soon as elementary school. So your son possibly knows about sex, and I suggest that you talk to your son as soon as you get an idea about his attraction to a female, because if they're not going to learn what sex is from you, they're going to learn it from somewhere. They really are. They're going to learn it from somewhere. I learned about sex from my friends in the neighborhood, people that were my age. And in fact, true story, I remember one time we were at playing basketball at night at PS 44. Right, I had to be about in the 7th grade. I think I was in the 7th grade, right? Yeah. I think I was in the 7th grade. And we all after playing game, we're all talking, me and a couple of friends, and they're talking about who was having sex, and I was having sex, and they were having sex, and at that point, I was not having sex. I was 12. I wasn't having sex. And prior to that, nobody really talked to me about sex. My mom did her best to work hard so that we had a nice place to live. But my mom didn't really speak to me too much about sex, and here I was 12. All my friends are talking about sex and how it feels and this and that, and here I am lying, saying, hey, yeah, I had sex, and yeah, it felt this way, and I had no idea what I was talking about. But here I am learning about sex from my peers, right? So an opportunity arose where an older girl, she was 14, invited me over to her house, and I had lost my virginity. And I was like ignorant. I really was ignorant. I had no idea what I was doing. It wasn't the best experience of my life. There wasn't fireworks, and it wasn't, trumpets blasting and confetti all over the place. It was pretty dull. And I was like, oh, there's really no big deal to this. So afterwards, I'm telling my boys, yeah, I had sex and how it felt. And they was like, no, you didn't. You lying. Ah, yeah, I had sex. Yo, you lying, son. Yeah, I lost my virginity. And it was like, yo, for real? So how'd it feel? Yeah. So then at this point, they were like into what I was saying because they really never really experienced sex. They were lying about it. Here I am, the only one who really did experience it. And only because I didn't want to be the only one not experiencing it. So I think at a young age, you should really instill in your son the value of sex, the beauty of sex, and how and why sex was designed. I don't believe sex was meant to be a recreational activity that two consenting adults engage in. I believe that sex was designed to for a husband and his wife to enjoy one another's body in the art of making love, and also in the process of procreating. I don't believe sex to be a recreational activity that two adults, consenting adults, partake in leisurely. That's my opinion, and that's what I teach my sons about sex. But if you don't teach your son about sex at a young age, and your expectation of sex and him pertaining to sex, he's going to learn it somewhere else. He's going to adapt to the world's standard of what sex is, and that's what he's going to follow. All right. There's another question in the chat room. It says, Natalie writes again, when you had an absent father in your life growing up, how do you build a relationship with them as you get older? If the father won't admit he wasn't in your life, I am trying to forgive and forget. That's something that I had to do also. I didn't meet my father till I was 30. Okay, I was 30. I'm 34 now. Didn't meet my father until I was 30. And one of the things I had to do was wipe the slate clean and say, listen, I don't have any other expectation from you other than us developing a relationship from here on in. I don't need him to take me to the basketball court to teach me how to shoot hoops, take me to the baseball court to throw the ball with me, or a baseball field to throw the ball with me. I wiped the slate clean. Let's see how we can develop a relationship from today. Part of that is you having to forgive. Now, one of the hardest part is forgetting. Everyone, I believe, should forgive, but sometimes forgetting is almost impossible. What you have to do is you have to forgive and not throw into that person's face anymore. All right. If you've truly forgiven the person, then let their past faults be their past faults, and allow yourself to start developing a relationship today. Sit down and talk and say, listen, and here's what you can do. Sit down, have a real uncensored conversation. If you guys got to curse, you got to curse. If you got to throw things, got to throw things. Just make sure that nothing of value is nearby. But at the end, you guys have to come together and say, listen, okay, we got all of our hurt out. You heard me, I heard you. How can we develop a relationship from here on in? Okay? You're my father. You was not there. I want you to be in my life now. So how can we do this now? Yeah, I know. Yeah. If he does not want to do that, then what you have to do is you have to say, Bobby Curtis, what you have to do is you have to then do the mature thing and I guess play a role in his life. If you want to be in his life, then don't expect anything more than what he's going to give you. This way you're not going to be heartbroken anymore. Some people in your life, you have to expect exactly what they're going to give you. You have to know them too. I have friends in my life that I know I can't go any further than here. Then I have those friends that I know we're going to go to the grave together. That's how it is in all kinds of relationships. So if your father is only giving you but this much, don't expect anything more than that. Don't. All right? Would you be wrong for not dealing with him? I would say if you're not dealing with him, it's because of past hurts. You have to let that go. You have to let that go. So if that's the motive by you because of you not dealing with him, you have to let that go. But if there's a possibility that you guys can develop a relationship today, trust me, it'll benefit you. But don't expect anything more than he's willing to give. Don't expect anything more from your son that his grandfather's going to be willing to give. And teach your son, this is grandpa and poppy, and this is what he's going to give. All right. I have Annette. How you doing? I have some friends from Trinidad listening in and watching. Thank you so very much. So very much. Make sure you spread the word about this webinar. All right. So I have another question. If you guys have any questions, please put it in the chat, and and I will answer them to the best of my ability. All right, I have one question from Karen. Hi, Karen. Thank you so much for watching. What about dealing with an abusive father? Again, if the father's not going to protect him, then you got to protect him. And if you have to protect your children from their father, you have to protect them first and foremost. I know countless stories of children who were abused by their father and blame the mom for not doing anything about it. Your main concern is your child and what's best for them. It's so hard to say this, but some situations it's best for the child not to be so close to their father because of situations like them being abusive. It's the fact, it's true. You have to protect your son. You have to protect your son. Because not only will he hurt physically, he'll also hurt emotionally, and chances are he's going to repeat the same behavior to some other female or his children when he grows up. All right, so teaching your son about how bad it is for their dad to be abusive, and don't always take the dad's side. If the dad is abusive and you got to keep your children away from the father, you do it. If the father's a drug dealer and there's guns and bullets blazing by the house every day because he's out there selling drugs and he's running from people that he owe money from, protect your children and keep them out of that situation. Right? If you have to, go to the court and request for supervised visitation. Do it. I would never say keep him completely away from the children, unless it poses a real severe threat to them. But your main concern is to protect him, and if that means that you need to cut the dad out of the life for a little while, you have to do it. You have to do it. Elizabeth writes, what do you do when the child is asking to see the father, but the father is not saying when he will be around? This is like a classic case of deadbeat fatherism. I'm not sure if fatherism is a word. I'm making it up. I'm going to apply to Merriam-Webster and see if they can make that into a word. But this is like one of the most common cases of deadbeat fatherism, where the dad is promising things and I'm going to come see you, and the child gets excited and dad doesn't show up. Again, some fathers don't want to be that kind of father, or they're incapable of being that kind of father right now. That's why it's important to try to connect your sons with a positive male role model that you know will be a little bit more consistent, that would be there for him, an uncle, a cousin, somebody that you trust, that you know if they say, I'm going to come pick you Saturday at 9:30, they'll be there Saturday at 9:29 to pick up your son to do something with them. That's what your son need. They need to be taught what consistency is, how to keep your word, and communicate with your son. Speak to him. How does that make you feel? Okay, but at the same time, don't put the father down. Don't make the father look like a bad guy in your child's eyes. It's probably going to happen automatically, so you don't have to do anything. Don't make daddy to be the bad guy in that situation. Just teach your son that, well, this is not good. This is not a good situation, but your dad may still love you, and so on and so forth. But let there be an alternative. Let him see a positive male role model that would be consistent. After a couple of years, like, children are very resilient. They're very strong, and they can endure a lot. Trust me, they can endure a lot. I went 30 years not knowing my father at all. So they can endure a lot. But at the same time, don't leave them to fend for themselves. Teach them about things like this also, so that when they grow up, they're not making this mistake. They're not doing the same thing. Andre, what can you suggest for a parent who sees her son showing a lot of anger? I think I spoke a little bit about this earlier in the chat. One of the best ways you can combat anger is with unconditional love. It really is. You don't know what he's going through. You really don't know what he's going through. He could have insecurities. He could, just not feel good about himself. Could be angry at dad for not being there. You don't know what's happening. Unconditional love and an open line of communication means a world of difference. It really does. Um, as disrespectful as they can be, because of their anger, if they see that mom is consistently, unconditionally loving me and is letting me speak, that can help. Most young men, young boys, feel like they can't let their emotions out. They feel like they can't let their emotions out, so they bottle everything in, right? They bottle it, and all that emotional pressure is building up and building up and building up in this bottle until it pops, because they feel like they can't speak. Some moms even put that kind of pressure on their sons. Man up. Don't be crying. What are you doing crying? You're a man. Suck it up. When young men need to learn how to seep the emotions out so that they don't explode. I know how that feels. I know how that feels. Sometimes I was intimidated to go to my mother with certain things. Today we're able to talk. And we talk it out. Like me and my mom today, we'll talk it out today. I'm a 34-year-old man. You can't tell me nothing. Nah, but I do all that with respect to her. But you have to make sure that there's an open line of communication, a place where your son can emotionally release his feelings to you. Be mom and be counselor. Be unconditional and have a time where there's a judgment-free zone. So you know what? Tell me whatever you want to tell me. I'm not going to judge you. I'm not going to say anything. I'm just going to love you unconditionally. And you'll be surprised how much they'll open up. They may not open up right away, but they will, because they want to let out that emotions. Nobody wants to be angry. Nobody wants to live their life in anger. Everybody wants peace, joy, happiness. They want it. So make sure that you provide a place where that can happen. Open up the lines of communication, create a judgment-free zone, love him unconditionally. But don't pacify him either. Don't baby him, because we're trying to raise a man here. Don't baby him, However, allow him to open up his emotions to you, and let him know that it's okay for an adult to open up his emotions. That will help him in relationships with women, because he's going to be like, wow, I can't tell you how I feel. I can tell my mom how I feel. You know what? No, this isn't going to work. I need to find somebody that will listen to me and love me unconditionally like my mom did. You know what I'm saying? So I hope that helped. I hope that that answered your question also. All right. If you guys have any more questions, please feel free to ask it. I'll answer it to the best of my abilities. All right. We have only a couple of more minutes left. We have about 4 more minutes, and I wanted to get to a couple more questions. All right. Next question I have here is, all right. I have one in the chat. I try to answer the ones in the chat before I answer the ones that were sent to me prior. When a son is living in two homes, with mom, time with mom, time with dad, how do you try to keep the house rules the same? My son knows what he can and can't do at my house, but at dad's house it may be different. Like I co-parent also. I co-parent. I'm a divorcee, and my ex-wife has my oldest son. I have the two younger ones, and the cultures in our house are dynamically different now. It's very different. And what Maggie and I do is we communicate. We always talk. If something happens in my house or in school here, all right, whatever punishment that they have at my house, they'll have there, and vice versa, or whatever consequences, vice versa. But Natalie, in your situation, you guys don't have that open line of communication yet. You guys have to develop that. You have to develop that open line of communication so that your son don't think that he has the power to split parents. Once a child feel that they have the power to split parents, it's very hard to take that back. Because now the son is splitting mom, splitting dad, and mom and dad are upset with one another because they feel like their authority is being usurped by the other. All right? Always keep constant communication. Whenever one of our kids does something good, I talk to Maggie about it. She talks to me about it. They do something bad, send a text message. We know what's happening. All right? When my son comes to my house on the weekends, I know what time he leaves because she tells me what time she leaves. I know what time what time he leaves my house to go back. The same way. So you guys have to keep that line of communication open. and try to develop that kind of relationship. Don't expect anything more, like as far as having a buddy buddy relationship. That may not happen. Don't expect to have a chummy relationship where you guys are going to call and be like, hey, how was your day? Cool. Work was good? Yeah. No, keep it strictly on a parental level. This is what happened. This is what happened. How can we together handle this? What happens here will happen here also. This way, your son doesn't feel like he has the power to split the parents. Yeah, the two different coaches. Try not to ask your son what happens at the house, because it also puts a lot of pressure on him, because he has two people that he needs to be loyal to, right? So you can ask, how was your weekend, or how was your time with your dad, but don't ask specifically what happened in the house, because that puts pressure on your son to either have to lie to you and betray you, or tell you what's going on and betray dad. You know what I'm saying? So don't put that kind of pressure on your son to have to tell you what's happening in the home, unless something bad is happening. Unless he comes home with a bruise on his face and you say, what happened? Daddy told me not to tell. You make sure that he tells you. You know what I'm saying? No matter what. You offer him candy. You tell him everything's going to be okay. But you make sure that you tell him, because your son's safety is first and foremost. Last question for the night is 8 o'clock. Last question before the night. By Maureen. She writes, how do you prepare your son to respect women when society promotes sex and sexuality so openly, especially when mom is Christian and dad is not, or vice versa? Okay, good. That's good, Natalie. So yeah, he's very smart. At 6 years old, they know too much. They know more than they should. Very much. All right. So how do you prepare your son to respect women when society promotes sexuality so openly, especially when mom is a Christian and dad is not, or vice versa? Again, whatever you teach your sons, those lessons will stick mentally. It will stick, because that's one of those tough things where dad may be a Christian, mom may not be a Christian, and they're being raised two different kind of households. So in mom's house, a woman could be sexually free, but in dad's house, that's not happening, or vice versa. Mom is a Christian and dad is not. You have to teach your son. And here's what I'm gonna say to mom. All the moms that are Christians out there, or moms that want to have their sons respect women. You have to be the type of woman that you desire your son to be with. You have to mimic that, mock that. If you want your son to respect women, you have to be a woman that's deserving of respect. If you are a mom out there who dresses like, whatever, like you dress because you want the attention of men, you're going to be teaching your son that this kind of behavior is okay. It's okay. But if you conduct yourself as a lady, a woman who deserves respect, and not demand it, because some people demand respect but they just don't deserve it. If you are a woman who deserves respect and sort of show that, your son will see that. Your son will see, wow, my mom is beautiful, and not because she's flaunting all this stuff. She's beautiful because she is a woman. She's a lady. We have to make being a lady more attractive than being a sex object. You have to be the type of woman that you desire your son to be with in the future. All right. And the same thing with the fathers, man, because we teach our sons, we do a discredit to our sons when we teach our sons that women are sex objects. A huge discredit. The reason why society is the way it is today is because we teach our sons that women are sex objects. That all they do is, all they're good for is recreational sex, and if they have a baby, they have to deal with it. We're trying to stop that. We're trying to eradicate that. So we're trying to. So what I'm trying to do is sort of touch and impact the whole family. And I believe that by getting to the fathers, a lot of the issues that we have socially will be fixed. A lot of the issues in society will be fixed if we can get fathers to truly commit to a family mindset and not, this turn up mindset that, it's all about living my life, money, cars, and hoes. We have to stop that. We really do. And that's my goal. That's why I do what I do. And my hope is that we, in 25 years, fatherlessness will be a thing of the past, and that these young men will grow up with a standard of manhood that is immaculate. That these young men will grow up and say, I'm a man, I'm proud to be a man, and I respect women. I honor women, and at the same time, honor God too. All right. It is now 8:05. I went 5 minutes over the time I was supposed to, but I do thank everyone for watching and engaging with me in this topic. Thank you all for those amazing questions that you asked. And if I didn't get a chance to answer your question, please feel free to email me at the roll call. And I'm going to type it in for you guys so that you can see it. It's the roll call at gmail.com. If you have a son that you really want me to speak to also, I'll be more than happy to speak to them. My office number is 718-971-6682. And also, if you are a community leader and you would like me to come and speak about mentoring, fatherhood, fatherlessness, you can also email me and give me a call, and I'll be more than happy to come out to your organization, to your school, to your church, your youth group, and speak about this. I hope I'm a blessing to you, and I hope that in the near future we'll team up together to see fatherlessness a thing in the past. And if you would like more information on me and my organization, you can go to therollcall.org. Type that in for you. All right. And you can also see if you can find me on Facebook. That's facebook.com/therollcall. And if you would like to purchase my book, you can do so by going to therollcall.org or going to amazon.com and searching From a Fatherless Father to His Sons. All right. Did I spelled that wrong? As an author, I should be spelling things right. So I'm not going to send that until it's spelled right. Okay. That's the title of the book. All right. Thank you guys so much for watching and engaging with me and having this conversation. God bless you all. Have a good night.